What if the greatest secret ever kept from humanity wasn't about how we live, but about what happens the moment we die? In 1877, a Russian mystic named Helena Petrovna Blavatsky published something that would shake the foundations of Western spirituality. Hidden within the dense pages of her work, Isis Unveiled, was a warning so disturbing, so radical, that most readers missed it entirely. She spoke of beings called ARCHONS, ancient parasitic intelligences that don't just influence the living, but wait in the shadows beyond death, ready to harvest souls as they cross the threshold. This isn't about heaven or hell. This is about something far more sinister, an invisible prison constructed from light itself, a trap so sophisticated that millions of souls walk directly into it, believing they're finally free. Blavatsky wasn't the first to discover this. She was translating ancient Gnostic teachings that had been suppressed for nearly 2,000 years, warnings about entities that feed on human consciousness and have engineered the afterlife as their ultimate feeding ground. But she went further. She mapped the mechanics of the trap, the signs to look for, and most importantly, the way out. For over a century, this knowledge has been buried beneath layers of misinterpretation, dismissed as a cult fantasy or Eastern mysticism. But something is changing. More people are waking up mid-death experience, recognizing the deception, and returning with memories they were never supposed to keep. You're about to discover why Blavatsky risked everything to reveal this secret, why she insisted that death is not the end of the journey, but the most dangerous moment of all. Because on the other side of that final breath, something is waiting, and it's been waiting for you since the day you were born. If you're enjoying this, subscribe to the channel and leave your like, because it helps tremendously to continue bringing content like this. The story you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about death, consciousness, and the invisible forces that have orchestrated humanity's greatest deception. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it, and once you know the trap exists, you'll never walk into it blindly again. Let's begin where Blavatsky began, with a question that haunted her entire life. What if freedom after death is the ultimate lie? Born in 1831 in Ukraine, Helena Blavatsky was not a typical woman of her era. From childhood, she claimed to hear voices, see beings invisible to others, and remember lives she had never lived. While others dismissed these as fantasies, Helena knew they were memories, fragments of something humanity had collectively forgotten. By the time she was 20, she had already embarked on a journey that would take her across Egypt, Tibet, India, and into the secret chambers of mystery schools that most scholars denied even existed. She wasn't searching for religion. She was searching for the original knowledge, the source code of reality that all religions had borrowed from and then corrupted. What she discovered in those hidden temples and dusty manuscripts would become the foundation of theosophy, a spiritual philosophy that attempted to synthesize ancient wisdom from East and West. But beneath the surface of her teachings about karma, reincarnation, and spiritual evolution lay something darker, something she revealed only to those who could handle it, the existence of ARCHONS and their masterwork, the soul trap that operates at the moment of death. The ancient Gnostics had warned about these beings centuries before. They described the ARCHONS as cosmic parasites, entities that exist in dimensions just beyond human perception, feeding on consciousness itself. But here's what most people miss. The Gnostics weren't just talking about life. They were talking about what happens after. According to these ancient texts, when a person dies, their soul begins to rise through planetary spheres, each one ruled by an archon. These beings present themselves as angels, guides, deceased loved ones, anything that will make the soul trust them. They show you the famous light at the end of the tunnel. They tell you to come home, to rest, to be at peace. And the moment you surrender to that light, you forget everything you learned in your previous life and get sent back into another cycle of incarnation with your memory wiped clean. This is the wheel of samsara, the cycle of rebirth, but Blavatsky revealed something the sanitized versions never mention. It's not a natural cycle, it's a farm, a consciousness farm where human souls are the crop, harvested again and again, lifetime after lifetime. Blavatsky spent decades compiling evidence from Gnostic texts, Tibetan teachings, Egyptian mystery schools, and her own experiences. She documented the layers of the trap, the tricks used to keep souls compliant, and the rare methods used by initiates to bypass the Archons entirely and achieve true liberation. But here's what made her dangerous. She didn't keep this knowledge locked away for spiritual elites. She published it. She made it accessible. And for that, she was attacked, ridiculed, and slandered by both religious authorities and skeptics, who sensed, perhaps unconsciously, that she was revealing something forbidden. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. What city in the United States are you watching from? Or what country in the world is this content reaching you? Leave it in the comments. I really want to know, because this knowledge is spreading, and the Archon's greatest fear is awakening. Every person who learns the truth weakens the system. Every soul that remembers breaks another strand of the web. Blavatsky knew she was planting seeds for a future generation, a generation that would be ready to hear what she had to say. Perhaps that generation is now. Perhaps that's why you're here reading these words, feeling that strange resonance, that ancient recognition stirring in your chest. The question is, are you ready to see what she saw? Because once you learn how the trap works, death will never look the same again. Imagine you've just died. Your body lies still, but you, your consciousness, suddenly find yourself floating above it. There's no pain anymore, no weight, just an extraordinary sense of lightness and freedom. And then you see it, a brilliant, warm, inviting light in the distance. Every fiber of your being is drawn to it. Deceased relatives appear, smiling, reaching out their hands. They tell you it's time to come home. This is the moment, the most critical moment in your soul's entire existence. And according to Blavatsky, it's all a lie. In The Secret Doctrine, her massive 2-volume masterwork, Blavatsky describes what she calls the Kamaloka, the astral plane where souls linger after death. But this isn't a peaceful waiting room. It's a sorting facility, a processing center where the Archons evaluate each soul and determine how best to recycle it back into physical incarnation. The Archons have studied human psychology for eons. They know exactly what you want to see, what will make you lower your guard and surrender your sovereignty. If you were Christian, they'll show you Jesus or angels. If you were atheist, they'll present it as a natural psychological phenomenon, your dying brain's last gift to itself. If you believed in reincarnation, they'll show you a wise council of elders reviewing your life and gently suggesting you go back to learn more lessons. Every single narrative is tailored to you. It's the ultimate customized deception. Blavatsky learned this from Tibetan masters who had themselves learned it from even more ancient sources. They taught her that the tunnel of light is not the path to liberation. It's the path back into the matrix, back into another life where you'll forget everything you learned, make the same mistakes again, and generate the same emotional energy that the Archons feed upon. Think about it. Why would a truly benevolent universe force you to forget everything you've learned? Why would genuine spiritual evolution require total amnesia between lives? It doesn't make sense unless the system is designed by something that benefits from your ignorance. The Gnostic texts discovered in Egypt in 1945 confirmed exactly what Blavatsky had been saying for decades. In the Pistis Sophia and the Apocryphon of John, the Archons are described as lords of fate who trap souls in repeating cycles. They rule the lower heavens, the astral planes, and they've constructed a maze of false light designed to capture ascending souls. But here's the part that will shift everything for you. The trap only works if you consent. The Archons cannot force you. They can only deceive you into choosing their light, their tunnel, their recycling system. Your free will, that divine spark within you, is something they cannot violate. They can only manipulate it. If this is starting to make sense to you, comment your thoughts below and share this video. Blavatsky documented case after case of initiates who had near-death experiences and recognized the deception. They described seeing the light, feeling the pull, but something inside them, some deeper knowing, made them refuse. And the moment they refused, everything changed. The beautiful light revealed itself as a glamour, a hologram. The loving relatives dissolved into shadow forms. And a different path appeared, one the Archons never show you. A path that leads beyond their dominion entirely. This is what they don't want you to know. This is what has been suppressed, ridiculed, and hidden for centuries. But the knowledge is resurfacing now, and you're part of the wave of consciousness that's remembering the truth. But knowing the trap exists isn't enough. You need to understand why it was created, and what the ARCHONS are really after. Why would interdimensional beings care about human souls? What could they possibly gain from keeping us trapped in cycle after cycle of incarnation? The answer, according to Blavatsky, is energy. Not physical energy, but the life force itself, what the ancients called prana, chi, or pneuma. Human consciousness generates an extraordinary spectrum of energetic frequencies, especially emotions. And certain emotions, fear, suffering, confusion, despair, emit the exact frequencies that ARCHONS feed upon. You are not at the top of the food chain. You never were. Blavatsky compared humanity's position to that of sheep in a pasture. The sheep believe they're free, they graze, they socialize, they live their lives, but they don't see the fence, the shepherd, or the inevitable destination. From their limited perspective, everything seems natural. But from a higher vantage point, the entire system is revealed as a farm. The ARCHONS engineered the reincarnation cycle not for your spiritual growth, but for their sustenance. Each lifetime you live generates decades of emotional energy. Your struggles, your heartbreaks, your fears, all of it radiates outward into dimensions where these beings harvest it, like farmers harvesting wheat. But it's even more sophisticated than that. The ARCHONS don't just feed on random suffering. They've carefully designed entire systems, belief structures, wars, economic models, social hierarchies, all calculated to generate maximum emotional output. Every conflict, every injustice, every tragedy isn't random chaos. It's engineered farming. And the moment of death? That's the most potent moment of all. When you die, your entire life flashes before you, every memory, every emotion compressed into a singular experience. The intensity of that moment creates an energetic burst that the ARCHONS capture and consume before wiping your memory and sending you back for another round. Blavatsky called this the Great Deception, and she insisted that nearly every human religion and spiritual tradition had been subtly corrupted to keep this system running. The concept of sin and redemption, the idea that you must keep coming back until you get it right, the belief that suffering is noble and necessary for growth, all of it programming designed to make you accept your imprisonment. The Tibetan masters taught her that there are beings on the other side who genuinely want to help humanity escape, true guardians who exist beyond the archonic realms, but they cannot interfere with free will. They can only offer knowledge to those who seek it, and guidance to those who are ready to see beyond the illusion. This is why Blavatsky wrote in such complex, layered language. She was encoding liberation knowledge into her texts, hiding it in plain sight, so that those with eyes to see could find it, while those still under the spell would simply move on, uninterested. But you're still here. You haven't moved on. Something in you recognizes the truth in these words, even if you can't fully explain why. That's not an accident. That's your divine spark responding to the call. And now it's time to show you the fracture in the system, the point where everything begins to break down. There is a moment in every prison where the inmates finally see the bars, not metaphorically, literally. One moment the walls are invisible, accepted, normal. The next moment, they're undeniable. That shift in perception changes everything. For humanity, that moment is happening now. Blavatsky predicted this. She wrote that there would come a time when the veil would thin, when the ARCHONS' control would weaken, and when enough souls would simultaneously awaken that the entire system would begin to destabilize. She called it the turning of the cycle, a cosmic shift where the imprisoned would become the liberators. The ARCHONS' greatest weapon has always been invisibility. As long as you don't know the trap exists, you walk right into it. But something is changing in the collective consciousness. More people are having near-death experiences and coming back with memories they shouldn't have. More children are being born, remembering past lives with startling clarity. More individuals are waking up midlife and asking the forbidden question, what if everything I was taught is a lie? This is the breaking point, the moment where darkness and light collide, where truth and deception stand face to face. And you, reading these words right now, are part of that collision. Blavatsky taught that every soul has a choice, but most don't realize they're choosing. They sleepwalk through life, accepting the narratives given to them, following the paths laid out before them, never questioning whether those paths were designed for their benefit or someone else's. But there's another way, a way that requires courage, discernment, and an unshakable commitment to truth no matter how uncomfortable it becomes. It's the path of gnosis, direct knowing, where you stop believing what you're told and start experiencing what is real. The Archons fear this path. They fear individuals who think for themselves, who question authority, who refuse to be herded into ideological camps or belief systems. Because every awakened soul is a hole in their net, a frequency they cannot feed upon, a consciousness they cannot control. If this content is opening your mind, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss the next chapters of this journey. Blavatsky understood that knowledge alone isn't enough. Information without application is just entertainment. The real power comes when you take what you've learned and begin to apply it, not just intellectually but energetically, spiritually, in the way you live your life and the way you prepare for death. Because the Archons are counting on you forgetting. They're counting on you being distracted, divided, and too busy to look inward. They're counting on you walking into that light at the moment of death without a second thought. But what if you didn't? What if you remembered? What if at that crucial moment you said no? That single act of sovereign refusal could change the trajectory of your soul for eternity. And that's exactly what they've been trying to prevent. Now we need to go deeper, because the trap has layers and the Archons have contingencies. It's time to reveal the secret they've hidden the longest. The Archons don't just operate in the afterlife. They've infiltrated the structure of reality itself, and their most insidious tool is something you carry with you every single day: your identity. Who are you? No, really. Strip away your name, your nationality, your profession, your beliefs, your memories. What remains? According to Blavatsky, what remains is the divine spark, the immortal consciousness that exists beyond all form. But the Archons have spent millennia making sure you never find that spark. How? By giving you so many false identities that you forget to look for the real one. You think you're your thoughts, but you're not. Thoughts come and go like clouds. You think you're your emotions, but emotions rise and fall like waves. You think you're your body, but the body is just a temporary vehicle. Every identity you cling to is a chain, and every chain leads back to the archonic system of control. This is why Blavatsky emphasized the concept of the higher self, a term that's become diluted in modern spirituality, but originally pointed to something radical. There is a version of you that exists beyond the matrix, beyond time, beyond the cycle of death and rebirth. That version of you has never been fooled. It's watching, waiting for the lower self to remember and rejoin it. But here's the mechanism the Archons use to prevent that reunion: attachment. Every time you deeply attach to something in the physical world, wealth, status, relationships, even spiritual achievements, you create an energetic anchor. And when you die, those anchors pull you back. The Archons don't need to force you to reincarnate. Your own attachments do it for you. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, which Blavatsky studied extensively, describes this process in detail. It warns the dying soul not to be seduced by the visions that appear, not to cling to the life that was, and not to be drawn back by unfinished business or unresolved karma. Liberation comes from letting go completely, from releasing every identity, every attachment, every story you told yourself about who you are. But this isn't nihilism. This is freedom. Because when you let go of the false self, the true self emerges, the one that has always been free. Like this video right now, it helps so much to spread this message. Blavatsky documented a technique used by ancient initiates, a practice of conscious dying while still alive. By meditating deeply and releasing attachment to the body, thoughts, and identity, they would simulate the death experience and learn to navigate the afterlife terrain while still incarnated. This way, when real death came, they would be prepared. They would recognize the archonic deceptions instantly and choose the path beyond. This knowledge was once restricted to mystery schools and secret societies, but the time for secrets is over. The knowledge must spread, because the Archon's power diminishes every time someone sees through the illusion, and you're seeing it now. The question is, what will you do with this sight? You don't need to wait until death to see the Archons at work. They're operating right now in your daily life, through systems so normalized you've stopped questioning them. Look around. Everywhere you turn, there's a message telling you that you're not enough, not successful enough, not beautiful enough, not happy enough. There's always something to buy, something to achieve, something to become. And the moment you get close to satisfaction, the goalpost moves. This isn't accidental. This is design. The Archons understood something fundamental about human consciousness. If you're constantly chasing, you're never present. And if you're never present, you're easy to control. So they built a world of perpetual distraction, endless entertainment, infinite scrolling, algorithmic feeds, news cycles designed to trigger fear and outrage, a 24/7 assault on your attention. Blavatsky warned that the Archons would infiltrate every system. Education that teaches you what to think instead of how to think. Medicine that treats symptoms instead of causes. Religions that demand obedience instead of direct experience. Economies that trap you in debt cycles, making you trade your life force for survival. This is the invisible prison made visible. You wake up, go to work, come home exhausted, distract yourself with screens, go to sleep, and repeat. Days turn into years, years into decades, and one day you wake up and realize you spent your entire life serving a system that never served you. But it goes deeper. The Archons feed on specific frequencies: stress, anxiety, fear, anger. And modern society is engineered to keep you perpetually in these states. The news makes sure you're afraid. Social media makes sure you're comparing yourself to others. The economy makes sure you're stressed about money. It's a farm, and you're the livestock. Blavatsky would look at the modern world and see the archonic system in full display. She'd see how technology, which could have liberated humanity, has instead become the most sophisticated tool of control ever created. Your phone knows more about you than you know about yourself. Algorithms predict your behavior. Your thoughts are no longer your own. They're guided, nudged, shaped by invisible architects. But here's the critical point. Recognizing the prison is the first step to escaping it. The moment you see the pattern, you can choose differently. You can step out of the machine, you can reclaim your attention, your energy, your sovereignty, and that choice starts now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Right now, in this moment, you get to decide. Will you continue feeding the system, or will you starve it and feed your own soul instead? Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path is familiar, comfortable, paved with the stories everyone else believes. The other path is unmarked, uncertain, leading into territory that most people fear to tread. Which do you choose? This isn't a hypothetical. This is the choice Blavatsky says every soul must make, not just at death, but every single day. The Archons are counting on you to choose the familiar path because that's the path that leads back to them. But there's always another option, and it starts with a single word. No. No, I will not believe the story you're telling me. No, I will not surrender my consciousness to your light. No, I will not forget who I am. That refusal, that sovereign act of will, is the key to everything. It's the same refusal that mystics throughout history have practiced. It's the same inner rebellion that every awakened soul must eventually embrace. Blavatsky taught that the universe respects free will above all else. The Archons can deceive, manipulate, and influence, but they cannot force. Your consent is required. And once you withdraw that consent, their power over you evaporates. But here's the challenge. Saying no to the Archons means saying no to the crowd. It means questioning things that everyone else accepts. It means standing alone sometimes, walking a path that others will call crazy, dangerous, or delusional. Most people would rather be comfortable and enslaved than uncomfortable and free. That's the brutal truth. The Archons know this, and they've built an entire civilization on that principle. But you're not most people. If you were, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have read this far. Something inside you, that divine spark Blavatsky spoke of, has been pulling you toward truth your entire life. You've always felt different, haven't you? Like you didn't quite belong in the world everyone else seemed to accept so easily. That wasn't a flaw. That was a feature. That was your soul remembering. Comment your perspective here below. I really want to read what you think. The question now is simple but profound. Are you ready to fully embrace what you've always sensed? Are you ready to stop pretending that the prison doesn't exist and start learning how to walk out of it? Because the final confrontation is coming, and it's not out there, it's inside you. Here's what Blavatsky discovered that made her so dangerous, so targeted, so relentlessly attacked by both religious authorities and skeptics. The Archons are not external demons. They are fragments of a cosmic accident, parasitic thought forms that gained autonomy and have been feeding on consciousness ever since. In her most esoteric writings, reserved only for advanced students, Blavatsky revealed that the Archons were never meant to exist. They are errors in the code, glitches in the divine matrix that learn to sustain themselves by consuming the energy of souls, and humanity, in its divine amnesia, became the perfect host. But here's the part that changes everything. The Archons have no power that you didn't give them. Every fear you hold strengthens them. Every belief in separation feeds them. Every time you forget your divine nature, you consent to their dominion. They are parasites, and parasites die when the host wakes up. Blavatsky learned from her teachers in Tibet that there is a moment, a singular point in the death experience, where the soul can break free entirely. It happens between the moment of death and the appearance of the light. There's a gap, a pause, a space of pure consciousness where no illusions can reach you. If you can recognize that gap and rest in it, if you can resist the pull toward any form, any light, any identity, you slip through the net. You rise beyond the planetary spheres, beyond the archonic realms, beyond the cycle of rebirth entirely. You return to the source, not as a lost fragment seeking wholeness, but as a liberated consciousness choosing reunion. This is what initiates have been practicing for thousands of years. This is the secret behind every mystery school, every esoteric tradition, every meditation practice that teaches you to observe thoughts without attaching to them. It's all training for that final moment. But you don't have to wait until death. You can practice liberation now. Every time you witness a thought without becoming it, every time you feel an emotion without being consumed by it, every time you observe the world without losing yourself in its dramas, you're training yourself to navigate the afterlife with sovereignty. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. The Archons fear nothing more than a humanity that remembers its power. And you right now are part of that remembering. The question is no longer whether you'll escape the trap. The question is, will you help others escape too? Blavatsky spent her entire life preparing humanity for this moment, not because she was special, but because she remembered what we all forgot. You are not a body having a spiritual experience. You are an immortal consciousness having a temporary human experience. And when this experience ends, you don't have to go back. The Archons have ruled for millennia because humanity forgot how to say no. But that era is ending. The veil is thinning. The truth is spreading. And every person who learns to recognize the trap weakens it for everyone else. When you die, remember this. You are sovereign. You are divine. You are free. No being, no light, no voice has authority over you unless you give it. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. The true path home has no tunnel, no light, no guides. It is simply the deepest recognition of what you've always been. Blavatsky's final message was one of hope. She said that humanity is on the verge of a collective awakening, a mass exodus from the archonic prison, and every soul that escapes makes it easier for the next one. Every person who remembers weakens the bars for everyone still trapped. You are not alone in this. You never were. There are beings beyond the Archons, true guardians of light, waiting for you to remember so they can guide you the rest of the way. But it starts with you, with your choice, with your refusal to be deceived one more time. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel, leave your like and share in the comments what impacted you most on this journey. The invisible prison only exists as long as you believe in it. And belief, like everything else, is a choice. Choose freedom. Choose truth. Choose to remember. The game ends when you decide it ends, and that decision is yours alone.